Hey guys, hope you are all doing well today. So we have a matchup between the fierce Lizardmen going up against the deadly, vicious infantry of the Dark Elves. Now from previous matchups, I've actually found that the Lizardmen infantry doesn't stack up too well at all against the Dark Elves infantry. The Dark Elves just have too much value per unit. Their price to performance ratio for each unit is just way too high, and the Lizardmen don't really have any unit they can field in great numbers which can counter the Dark Elves infantry. And so I decided to go with a very skirmish heavy army. So for my Vanguard deployment as a Lizardman, I decided to go with 4 Chameleon Skinks. Now, these are probably one of the best skirmishing units in the game. They're poison debuffs, which you can see are listed on their missile strength. Let me try to pull it up real quick. Here you go. These debuffs really serve to slowly wear down units, especially units which are armored. They really don't do much damage in the short term, but over the period of a battle, consistent fire from these guys will really wear down any unit they're firing at. For my main infantry line, you can see I have gone with the very, very bare bones of what you need to defeat the Dark Elves. So we have 1 unit of Cohort of Sotek, and 2 units of Sorcerers with shields. They are not going to last very long at all in a melee fight with the Dark Elves, but backing them up are Skink cohorts with javelins. Now these guys are, again, going with the narrative of a skirmish style army. They're just going to be standing in the back, happily throwing their spears and poisoning whatever infantry decides to come into their range. So overall, a pretty weak infantry line for the Lizardmen, but the goal is to skirmish, and building upon that narrative again, 2 Bastildons with solar engines. Now these guys are going to be the big damage dealers of the Lizardmen. They're basically the closest thing you can get to artillery. With 402 missile strength, they are going to do so much damage to any unit which comes in range of them, so keeping them online and firing for as long as possible is essential for the Lizardmen. And for the Lizardmen Lord Maznamundi himself. He's probably one of the best lords for a attrition style battle, which I would consider this to be. So he has many debuff and buff style spells that would really help the Lizardmen infantry last as long as possible against the might of the Dark Elves. So one is Shield of the Old Ones, which increases leadership and damage resistance. Apotheosis, which helps with healing units, and the Curse of the Midnight Wind, which is slowly becoming one of my favorite spells of the Lizardmen. Minus 30 armor and minus 24 melee attack. Any unit caught in this Curse of the Midnight Wind will really be debilitated for, let's say, 25 seconds. That's how long those spells last, so it really, really debilitates infantry for the 25 seconds that they're caught in it. And yeah, so funny story, on my flanks, 2 units of Cold One Spear Riders, and I completely forget about these guys in the battle. I don't know what came over me. I guess because I was focusing on the battle on this sector. Actually, I should put this in slow-mo. I was focusing on the battle in the middle, and they were kind of in the periphery. I didn't see them, so I just completely forgot about them in the battle. So that's 2,000 gold gone down the drain. So not great for me, but let's just say it makes the battle a lot more interesting. Now for the Dark Elves, as you can see, very, very infantry heavy, just as I expected. 5 units of Dread Spears make up the front line. Again, a great value unit. They're also anti-large, so if they manage to catch some of these dinos, or if I had used my Cold One Spear Riders, if they manage to catch those, it'll definitely do quite a bit of damage. Backing them up are the Blackguard of Nagaron. They're armored, they're armor piercing, they're really, really gonna be a tough nut to crack. They have so much armor, 100 armor, so killing them is going to be very tough, and it's mainly going to be up to these solar engines to do damage to them. On the side, we have Bleak Swords, a great anti-infantry unit, and in the back, these Witch Elves. They are going to be a nuisance for the Lizardmen to deal with. They have this dodge ability, which allows them to basically minimize the amount of damage they'll be taking from these Chameleon Skinks. So, adding to the fact that they're anti-infantry, and they can pretty much just destroy any infantry they go up against, they are really going to be a pain to deal with for the Lizardmen. And for the range of the Dark Elves, there are only 2 units of Shades with Great Swords, and they're actually chevroned all the way up to the max. I'm not sure why the player, the Dark Elves player, decided to do this, but I mean, they're definitely very, very powerful, and they also have great swords, so they can definitely put up a good fight in melee. For the Dark Elves Lord, we have Morathi, another spellcaster to rival Lord Mazdamundi himself. So, Morathi, her main spell is gonna be the Soul Stealer, I believe, assuming she brought it. Let's see, Soul Stealer, yeah. So that just allows her to absorb HP from single entity units like these Bastildons or Lord Mazdamundi, and regain that HP herself. So she is going to be great in attrition style fights like this. And the Dark Elves player also brought a Death Hag, who's a great anti-infantry lord or hero. So let's get this battle started. So right from the get-go, I move my army slightly to the right. You can see it's slightly off-centered, and my skirmishing starts off against these Dread Spears. They're shielded, so they're not going to take much damage, but again, over a battle, it'll definitely add up. And in the forest, these shades are actually hidden, so when I placed my Court of Sotek near the forest, I didn't realize that they were going to be going up against fully chevron shades, and they're not armored, they're not shielded, so they're going to die very quickly. So my right flank is in a very dire state. You can see I try to pop a Shield of the Old Ones to help preserve these Court of Soteks, but they're not going to last long at all. You can see they're going up against Morathi, a Death Hag, against Bleak Swords, so they are going to die very quickly, even under sustained sustained helping fire, I guess, from the Skink Cohorts with Javelins. And across the infantry line, really, my Saurus Warriors with shields are really being outclassed completely. You can see 4 units of Dark Elves are ganging up on this one Saurus Warrior with shields. So, as expected, my infantry is not holding out long in melee with the Dark Elves. But, important for my army, for the Lizardmen army, is the fact that they have set up this arc of fire where these Chameleon Skinks and these Skink Cohorts with Javelins can just absolutely fire into the flanks and completely annihilate these Dread Spears and these Witch Elves. I actually got a flank off with these Saurus Warriors as well, which was really helpful. And you can see that it's not yet, you can't really see much damage from the skirmish fire, but over the battle, they're really going to add up and really going to do so much damage to any unit they're firing at. Even if they're armored, even if they're like these Blackguards and Nagron, the skirmish fire is really going to add up. And these Bastildons have been doing work the entire time. One has 53 kills. What does the other one have? Oh, well, this one hasn't been doing that much work, but he's obstructed. But this one has 53 kills, this one has 5, but their damage also adds up over the period of an attrition-style battle like this one. But now, exactly what the Lizardmen wanted, but kind of didn't want. The infantry is blobbed up of the Dark Elves, which makes it really easy for the Bastildons to fire and destroy, but that also leaves nothing to stop them from just charging into the solar engines, which are the main damage dealers of the Lizardmen again. So the Bastildons are completely surrounded by almost all anti-large units. And so this is actually a very dire situation for the Lizardmen. The main damage dealers are under attack from infantry that are very capable in destroying them. Lord Mazdamundi somehow escaped that blob, so he still lives to fight another day and use his spells in this giant mass to really help out the battle, but it's really going to be up to these skirmishers to do as much damage as possible. The Bastildons are no joke, they can definitely fight in melee, but their main use was to use their solar engine to fire into massed infantry, which they're really not able to do right now. So the skirmish fire is still very strong. You can see I have 4 units here still firing in this arc, firing into the back of the Dark Elves, and now the Shades are completely obliterating these Saurus Warriors with shields. You can see they have shields, so they shouldn't be taking very much damage at all from these guys, but the fact that they're chevroned up just means that they're just going to do so much damage against anyone they fight. And they're not pushovers in melee, they have great swords, so if they decide to charge into melee, they'll definitely do a ton of damage. But the skirmish fire from the Lizardmen is adding up. The Dread Spears have almost completely routed from the Dark Elf army, and it's mostly just Blackguards and Morathi and the Death Hag who are going to be the main damage dealers that are left, along with these Shades, of course. So this is so important. So he managed to rout my Bastildons with solar engines, but he didn't pursue for the kill. So now they have managed to recover, and they're far away from the Dark Elf infantry that they really can't catch up and try to shut them down again. So the Bastildons can sit at quite a range away, safe from the Blackguards and Marathi and the Death Hag, and just fire in and do so much damage. They have free reign on whoever they want to shoot at. So this is a huge turning point for the battle. The skirmish fire of the Lizardmen is still completely online at this point. They're firing into whatever crowd they can find. You can see these Blackguard of Nagaron, though they have so much armor, they will not last under sustained fire, just as I expected. And now the last healthy infantry of the Dark Elves, the Shades, somehow they get charged by some weak skink cohorts, and that manages to group them up. And now look what the solar engines are able to do. They're able to fire at this giant mob of Shades and completely obliterate them. Notice how they were at full health before these skink cohorts came into battle. And now that the solar engines and these chameleon skinks are firing into their back, they're being completely demolished, and they really have done nothing. I mean, skink cohorts, they managed to rout them, but skink cohorts are one of the cheapest units of the Lizardmen, so that is not great value at all for the Shades, and they have been almost completely eradicated just from a couple shots by these solar engines. And now the battle of all battles happens in the middle. Marathi and the Death Hag going up against Lord Mazdamundi himself, and Lord Mazdamundi is a tank. He has like 6,000 HP, and that is being very, very quickly depleted by the Death Hag and Marathi, so he has to escape there and try to survive, because if he dies, the skirmishers of the Lizardmen are at pretty low health, pretty low leadership. They will give up without a leader, so keeping Mazdamundi alive is vital. Adding to the fact that Marathi has her Soul Stealer, so she can just heal up whenever she wants. So if Marathi doesn't die and Lord Mazdamundi dies, this battle is practically over for the Lizardmen. And look, he has routed. This is so scary. For me, when I was playing as the Lizardmen, this was probably the scariest point of the battle. Because Mazdamundi went from like 6,000 HP to 1,000 in like a matter of 20 or so seconds. And now he's being pursued by a Death Hag who, if catches up, will murk the Toad and basically put an end to this battle. My leadership, my morale will just completely go down the drain, and really there's nothing left for me to fight with. But now the solar engines make a clutch turn last second onto this Death Hag, and the Death Hag decides to charge into the solar Bastildons who have been doing so much damage, but alas, he will not win that fight. The solar engines and the Bastildons just have too much armor, they have too much power behind them, and the Death Hag gives up. And at this point, army losses has taken place. Marathi is pretty much the only unit are still alive, but she just routed. So yeah, you can see in this forest, actually, where's the forest? Yeah, these Cauldron Riders have not been used the entire battle, but that just shows how powerful this army can be, really. That even without some elite infantry costing 2,000 gold, we can still wear down and beat down the Dark Elf infantry through utter attrition and skirmishing. So this is honestly one of the best ranged armies I've ever fought with, that I've ever seen, actually. So credit to Falcon, he made this army, he gave me this army build, I guess, in a army guide video. I'll link it in the description. I'd really recommend people to check that out if they want to include multiplayer in their Warhammer experience. So, I hope you enjoyed this battle. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you guys in the next one.